Hello everyone. I would like to take a moment and comment on an idea that I've been hearing a lot lately, and that idea is that art is just art. Now, this is not going to be an exhaustive comment on why art is important. I would like to do something like that, but it's probably going to take more than one video. And this idea that art is just art, this isn't something that surprises me. I'm an educator, so for those of you who don't know me yet, that's what I do. Besides being a professional artist who shows in gallery spaces and creates art, I also am an art educator. And I'm at the high school level. So during my thesis work in graduate school, I had to teach several art classes, and I realized that I really enjoyed teaching, and I felt like that was a way I could give back to the community. So, and as you'll see in a minute, I thought, and I still feel, that there's a problem with art education in our country. Whenever I was in high school, I didn't even have art classes. That wasn't even something I was introduced to until I was in college, until my undergraduate work. And so I had no clue. I had a lot of catching up to do in that area, and that's something that I wanted to give back to the community and make sure that these people, this age group, were getting a good foundation in art so that they could understand it and have an advantage that I didn't have. I feel like where I teach currently, they've come a long way compared to the schools in the areas where I come from. They do have really good art programs, but however, we still have this idea that permeates the entire school culture, starting all the way from the lowest grade till the end, that art isn't important and that math, science, and English are what's really important. Everything else isn't important. I feel like that idea is a travesty. In my son's school, and in all the schools in this area, they call art classes, or any kind of art or creative class, they call that specials. So it's not even a real class, it's just something they go to once a week. To get to a high school level, like where I teach, then all of a sudden art is a real class and it's a legitimate thing, but they're so programmed to think that it's not important that it takes so much effort to get them to see the value in art. I want to take a second and clarify that I'm not in any kind of way trying to negate or belittle the disciplines of math and science. They're all interconnected with art to a degree. The science is a wonderful tool. It helps us understand certain aspects of the world around us, and the advances that we've made in science have paved the way for a future that's going to have a drastically different workforce than the one we have right now. Unless something catastrophic happens, a lot of the jobs that we see now are going to change. And what employers are going to be looking for in the future are people who are creative and curious, because that's something a robot can't do and it never will be able to do. And so this may not happen in my lifetime, but I've already seen so many changes. I mean, just look at self-checkout and things like that. That creativity is something that we need to start fostering in our children. So according to all these respectable journals, that's what these people do. They study the workforce and money, economics and things like that. They're all saying that creativity is the future, but it's not just the future, it's also the present. Math is another wonderful thing. It's a discovery that's so beneficial and so beautiful in its own way, but it's not the end-all be-all. I use it daily, and it's an incredible tool, but I don't use it nearly as much as I use my creativity. Creativity is something I use constantly to make my life more enjoyable, beneficial, productive, and just easier. At a certain point, you need creativity to really be able to really use math. I'm going to try to be as vague as possible because I don't want to put anybody on the spotlight here, but I've known people that have graduated from engineering schools that in real world scenarios, they didn't know how to apply the math they knew. They knew all of these wonderful equations and how to balance them, but when it came to using those equations in real life, they didn't really have a clue where, I could see the big picture and I could see how to apply math to real life, and that's just one example. I mean, a lot of the best work that's going on right now in certain disciplines of science is done by people who are using math and learning how to creatively apply it to certain situations. I heard a quote. I'd like to use it here, but to be honest, I don't really know who it originates with. I've heard C.S. Lewis. If you know who the originator of this quote is, feel free to leave it in the comments. Let me know so that you can educate me. But the quote goes something like this. It's math and science that help us to survive, but it's the arts that make life worth living. And if you just stop and think for a moment, what if there was no visual art, no music, no plays, no movies, no shows, no performance art whatsoever, no comedy? As wonderful as math and science are, in a world like that, they're just never going to be enough to fill that void. Art is something that's deeply ingrained in us. There's evidence of symbolic thought, jewelry making, pigment, 160,000 years old. So around the same time that humans show up, we're already making art. It's something that's fundamentally human. It's part of the human experience. It's part of the human condition. To me, art is a lifestyle or a way of life for me. It's communication, but it's also a device that allows me to explore and navigate and process myself and the world around me. Everything I do, I try to be creative, communicative, and contemplative about it. I was created to create.